One of the reasons that Star Wars has remained popular for 40 years, not just in the pop culture world, but in the toy aisle, is because the property is toyetic. It has colorful characters, and most of those characters have a signature ship that they fly around in that's associated with them, like Han Solo and the Falcon, or Boba Fett and his Boba Fett spaceship. There's also amazing planets and locations that can be the framework for all of your backyard and playroom adventures. Well, take a wild guess which of these three categories makes amazing toys. Well, if you guessed planets, well, okay. Maybe if the planets contain vehicles and figures, they're amazing. And that's just what happened towards the end of the Power of the Force 2 collection, when Kenner/Hasbro put out a line of Star Wars globes for different planets. You open them up, and what's inside? A yummy, delicious action figure. And a figure that was, well, just different enough from the mainline release to, well, get collectors to buy them. That was actually exactly the issue that I found myself in as a completist and, well, as a poor student and having a very limited budget, and realizing that, wait a minute, I already own all these figures. I don't need them again just so I can have them inside of a giant plastic globe of a fictional planet. Hasbro, Kenner, any toy company puts out line extensions in order to expand the amount of space they have at retail from a single item to ideally a billboard. So as you're walking down the aisle, that's why they want lots of space. So they see a giant swash of brand. And that's exactly why things like the Total Galaxy line was introduced, was to expand aisle space and have more SKUs. Well, as I said, while I was a completist for buying every figure, I passed on both Vader and Yoda. I'll explain as we get to them why I didn't at the time think they were original figures and how I came to realize, oh my gosh, they are, and I wound up buying these figures almost 20 years later. Alright, and that first one, the first planet we're going to visit is the Death Star. Yes, I know the Death Star is not a planet, but it was a good way to have a globe open up and have Darth Vader inside the yummy, yummy center. Okay, I should probably stop using that metaphor. It's only funny once. So Darth Vader in his Total Galaxy variant comes with his meditation chamber. This is the giant throne that he uses in order to breathe. Now, the thing is, the meditation chamber is not on the Death Star, but the Death Star and Darth Vader are associated with each other, especially in the eyes of kids, and, well, as much as we as adult collectors treasure this stuff, so much of the audience is kids, especially when you're dealing with this type of product. So, yeah, Darth Vader, his throne, the place where he makes all of his FaceTime calls, well, it made sense to make it as a toy, and it makes a great toy. In fact, it's done many, many times by many companies because, well, it presents Darth Vader basically as inside of an evil throne, and that's kind of a cool, dramatic moment that appeals to kids and collectors, whether or not you're even familiar with the property. So it pops up a lot in almost every company's license, and it's a good way to plus up Darth Vader and do more deluxe versions by having him come with a really big accessory, much like Palpatine coming with a throne, or Fat Bib Fortuna coming with a big chunk of Jabba the Hutt's palace. So whether you're into Lego or just are the 3 3/4 collector, heck, they'll probably be coming out with this in Black Series sooner than later. This was the first attempt by Kenner Hasbro to make the throne, not necessarily the greatest, probably the 500th Vader figure that I showed earlier was, but it got the job done, and he was in sitting position with bendable knees with articulation. Very similar to previous Vaders, though. That was the thing. There had been a lot of Vaders put out in the line extension set, such as this Gunner Station or even the Star Wars Escape the Death Star board game. And at the time, as a collector, I thought that the Vaders that I already had from these different line extension SKUs basically already filled the Total Galaxy Vader. But as an adult, I came to realize that they were different, and upon finally buying this Vader, yes, I mean, he's got his unique arms, he has a soft goods cape, and while he shares a body and some parts with previous Vaders, it is a unique Vader. You're not going to find a Vader with a removable helmet and soft goods cloak or cape in any other execution. So just different enough to make you mad, as my buddy Adam Paulus sometimes says. So, yeah, while I thought this was basically a rehash of the Vader from the TIE Fighter gunner station, no, he's got original arms and he's got a different cape. So, yeah, that's tooling. All right, which meant, yeah, counts as an original figure. Need to get it. All right, now on our galactic tour, we're going to stop by the forest movement of Endor. So, yes, that's not Endor. Endor is the planet. The moon is not Endor. It's the moon of Endor. All right, well, the moon of Endor, despite being called Endor on package, opens up to reveal an Ewok with a hang glider. Because what's cooler than a teddy bear strapped to some kind of animal skins wrapped around like tree bark or something? I don't know. The Ewoks have hang gliders. What can I say? And this was something that really, well, come on, it's fun. I mean, strapping an Ewok to, giant wings and throwing them through the air or soaring them. Anytime you can give a figure wings, it's awesome. And the Ewoks pulled out a lot of, stuff in the Battle of Endor, and they got plussed up with a lot of accessories. It's a good way to make a plussed up Ewok. When they're so small, if you need to make them at a higher price point, yeah, it's a big accessory. And it's screen accurate. Well, it's screen accurate at least, sort of. See, this is the Ewok that we all saw in the movie, dropping rock bombs. And the Ewok that we got in the Total Galaxy set, while looks very cool and definitely, gets the job done, slightly retooled version of Wicket, not the one from the movie. Well, the thing is, in the movie, we didn't see all of the footage that was obviously filmed. I mean, over the years, we've gotten a lot of bonus stuff on DVDs and Blu-ray. And yeah, originally there was going to be a lot of Ewoks in the sky. Well, at least multiple Ewoks in the sky, dropping rock bombs on ATSTs or ATSTs. So the one that we received in this line was actually from a cut scene, and here's the reference image. So while a lot of people thought this was a random Ewok over the years, no, it is specifically that Ewok, or at least it's, Kenner's shot at doing that version. The one from a non-used blue screen pre-production image, for lack of a better word. I assume that this is what Kenner used, because it does look like that Ewok, and it doesn't look like the Ewok that was actually in the movie, dropping rock bombs. So, while movie accuracy is great, it's awesome still to get other characters, especially if they're tied to the actual film, even if it is a cutscene and not in the actual theatrical cut. Especially with an Ewok. I mean, Ewoks were, shall we say, slow at coming out in the Power of the Force era of modern Star Wars collecting. We've had 20, 30 years, and at this point, looking back, yeah, we've got a lot of Ewoks, and it's awesome. But at the time, yeah, it was a slow drip, and it felt like any new Ewok was a cool Ewok. So we were happy to have one, even if it felt like it was one that Hasbro Kenner had made up, not realizing it was from the deleted scenes. We pretty much had Wicket and Logray as far as the 2-pack, and then, of course, that exact same Wicket got re-released as part of the Princess Leia collection about a year later. So that was it. That was all we had on our Ewok shelf. So, hey, random Ewok with a hang glider. It was different. It was Wicket's body with a new head, but it had a cool accessory, and it had a giant wing accessory that you could display him inside of the open globe. By the time we got to the Gold Saga line, we got another Ewok with hang glider, but again, still not the one that we saw on screen. And again, it's great to get screen accurate Ewoks, as Ewok was in the movie. It just happened not to be the one that was dropping rock bombs on the Atsta. So again, it great as we continue to build out our Ewok troop. And this was actually still considered an early Ewok in the line, which is shocking since it was years before we sort of caught up to Ewok goodness. It took until this pack before we actually got a screen accurate glider pilot, shall we say, the one that that we actually saw that wasn't in the cutscenes. So, hey, look at how much toys are mined out of this concept. Ewoks, hang gliders, they make great toys. I'm surprised we actually don't see this execution done more. Maybe the heyday of Ewoks is over. I should probably do a video just about that. People kind of forget how huge they were in the mid-'80s. All right, continuing our star tours, we head over to Dagobah in the Dagobah system near the Dagobah galaxy in the Dagobah corner of the universe. I guess, I don't know, they like the name Dagobah. It just rolls off the tongue. Dagobah. And here is Dagobah. So yes, a globe you can display and rotate on the base with a little switch on the back. Well, not a switch, a dial, kind of like a Cyclone's belt. And it goes in a circle. And you open it up, and not only do you get Yoda, but you get kind of a little bonus figure. So that was actually a big appeal for this set. But again, like Darth Vader, I didn't buy this Total Galaxy set until I was an adult. The idea of packaging Yoda with a chunk of Dagobah is actually something you see a lot throughout the line because, well, Dagobah makes a really cool playset. It's, a swamp where you get to train to be a Jedi. I mean, what kid doesn't want to live in a swamp and train to be a Jedi? It's like being a Ninja Turtle in a sewer. So, yeah, it's not a shock that we get lots of Yoda's hut and Dagobah sort of mini environments over the years to act out sort of, your Jedi training. And much like the Ewok with a hang glider, it's a great way to plus up Yoda, who's already a smaller character compared to everyone else in the assortment. So if you have a character that needs to be smaller, but has to ship with larger figures, hey, why not give him a giant chunk of Dagobah? Why not give him the whole planet? Hey, it happens. All right, so we should talk about the Yoda figure. We'd already had one released as part of the Power of the Force 2 line in the second wave, in the Empire wave. It came with a little backpack, slapped on Luke, and you were happy. I passed on this initially because I thought it was just a repack. But now, again, as an adult looking, I realized, oh my gosh, it's actually an originally tooled figure. Well, it uses a lot of parts from the first one on the left, but you can see the one on the right, the new one, is slightly shorter because the bottom half has been retooled. So the top half and the arms and the head are the same figure, but he has a different swivel, it's a T-swivel is what that's called, on his lower half. You can tell from the back because the date code is completely changed and because it's a newly tooled part. So you can see how they are different, both bottom halves there. The wrinkles are slightly different and the size is different. Now, besides Yoda, we also are treated to a second sort of figure, which is this flying creature that we see when Luke crash lands in the swamp. And this is actually the only time this figure, or this little flying thing, has ever been released as a toy, ever. Now, you have to really snap it off. It's actually stuck on it. But it breaks off pretty easy. It doesn't snap the figure. It does kind of leave a little mark there, but it's the only way to get it off. It's permanently attached. It comes off pretty easy. I guess this thing used to be called a Pico Pico, and now it's a Bogwing. Either way, it's cool that we got it, and it was a way to plus up Yoda. All right, the last planet is one that you may have heard of. It's called Tatooine. Now, obviously, who you were going to make in a Tatooine globe could be, well, any number of figures, since, well, Tatooine shows up with there's a lot of characters that spend screen time on Tatooine. I mean, there's Luke and Luke, and, well, I guess Luke and they come to rescue Han. Okay, well, Luke is really associated with Tatooine, so that's why we get him. And which Luke? It's Return of the Jedi Luke. Not just Return of the Jedi Luke, but Special Edition Return of the Jedi Luke. Yep, because, well, hey, the Sarlacc pit got a re-upgrade in the Special Edition, and we got a really cool Tatooine globe. And in fact, of all the planet globes, this was the one that I actually thought was the coolest, because while they all have markings for different locations, Tatooine is the only one where we spend enough screen time on that, knowing the sort of, amount of geographical space between, say, Mos Eisley and Ben Kenobi's hut, or the Krayt Dragon breeding grounds. It even has Mos Espa on it, which is pretty cool, since the Episode 1 hadn't come out yet. It's kind of a sneak preview. And the Luke figure, well, not the greatest. The face was new. The head, or shall we say the paint job was new. It was a slight retool of the first Return of the Jedi Luke that we got in Wave 3, which was the Shadows of the Empire wave. Now, this one came without his cloak, and at least his hand was painted correct, and no glove, because he doesn't get a glove until he's shot on the Sarlacc, or shot on the sail barge, which hasn't happened yet. And, of course, the Sarlacc is the special edition one with the beak. So I did buy this set. Originally, it was going to be a little bit more like a cave set without the Sarlacc, and Luke was going to stand on the bottom there. But I'm actually glad they redid it, because it makes a very cool diorama when opened up with Luke on the drawbridge. Speaking of unreleased sets, there was one more planet that was planned for this line, which was Hoth. And that was going to come with Hoth Leia. not too much. Well, I mean, it was developed up to the point of a prototype and showing up on different store lists as part of Wave 2. But it never happened because, well, basically Wave 1 didn't sell that well. It sold okay, but not enough to justify a second wave. It probably would have premiered Hoth Leia since she wasn't due to come out for quite a while and the main line, so that would have probably been the draw for buying Hoth as a globe so you could get Hoth Leia for those of us who didn't have the patience to wait for her since it wasn't going to be for a while. And this would have been her first release, so that would have been the fifth one.